Hi, my name is Jody, and I had a dream of Eve, and this dream has been weighing so heavily on my spirit. I had this dream years ago. It probably was over 3 years ago, but I felt called to release the dream and speak on the dream in Easter, and I just didn't want to. That's not what I do. I didn't feel comfortable. I kept making excuses on why I couldn't. Oh, I was too busy, or I didn't want to, or it wasn't like the right time, or I had to do this, or I had to do this, or I had to look right. And as you can see right now, I'm looking a hot mess. It is almost Christmas, and I was supposed to do this video around Easter, so God has been very patient with me. I don't even like talking about my spiritual life online, but I feel really called to. I don't want to deal with people or unbelievers. I don't care. I don't care if you don't believe in my God. I don't care. I don't want to like talk to you about it. I've worked out my own salvation. I've looked at all other religions. Like my God is my God. I'm not here for that. So I just didn't want to be on media like this. Also, I used to look a certain way and be a certain way, and I feel like years later, now that I'm a mom, I feel like I'm still like scared to not be up to that standard. I don't want people like, dang, like, Jody fell off. Like, she doesn't look like she used to. And so that also made me really nervous to return to any type of social media. But I just have to get this dream out here. Yes, I'm in a robe. Yes, it's 11 something p.m. at night. Yes, my hair looks crazy. It is what it is. I cannot take holding this dream anymore. So many weird things keep happening to me and keep coming up, and I cannot hold this dream anymore. I don't have the YouTube equipment. I had a YouTube channel and a YouTube camera that's like 6-7 years old. I don't even know if the thing still works. I don't know where the charger is. So I'm just filming on my phone. The only thing I got is this ring light, and I don't even know if I did that correctly. I don't have sound equipment, and I'm trying to be quiet because my son is sleeping in the next room. So if you have to turn up the volume, I don't have editing equipment. So I'm just going to try to do it on iMovie, and if I insert pictures, I will. But I just have to get this off of my spirit. This is just weighing so heavily on me. I'm thinking about it every single day. So I saw Eve. Just from seeing Eve, I have figured out so much where all the races come from, where all our hair textures come from, how we got here, how we look, from our skin colors to how animals work, to why animals look the way they look, to vegetables, to how fruits work, to how the earth works, to changes that possibly happened in the earth. Just so many things, and all I did was see Eve. Eve didn't speak to me. Eve didn't look at me full face forward. I don't even know if technically in the dream Eve knew I was there. This is how it started. This is before I was committed to God. This is before I was celibate. This is before really anything. But I wanted to get closer to God. Like, I knew I had a desire to get close to God. I just wasn't at that moment. And I remember just believing God's word. And I said, I believe God's word, even if it doesn't make sense, because God has proven to me he's real. He's done miracles for me that don't even make logical sense that I've asked for. Even when I was lukewarm, even when I was uncommitted, God answers my prayers. I know this God is real. So I believe we all came from Eve. But how? Like, what? And then the whole atheistic idea just didn't make logical sense to me, because I feel like the reason why majority of atheists are like white or white male is because I feel like they're the only ones who can fall for that. And I even asked a white person, I'm like, so we evolved to be darker because, we lived in African regions. And she was like, yeah. I said, so if you spend all your life in a hot climate and you and your, white spouse, you guys get really tan, will your child be born slightly tanner? And she looked at me like I was stupid. I'm like, that's what you think? You think we got darker over time? Like, you think we tanned and being exposed exposed to sun, no matter how much a white person is exposed to sun, their child is not going to be born darker and darker. They're not going to get darker over time genetically. Like, but anyways, I was just so confused, and I was just really trying to figure it out. I'm like, God, I believe this, but like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I'm in my head thinking like I'm smart. I'm like, you know what? I think Adam was black, because Adam, was made from the ground. What color is mud? Adam was black. And I said, but I don't believe Adam and Eve were black, because black people can't really, emphasis on really, I'll talk about it in a second video. I'm going to make a second video in more detail. Really create white people unless they have albinism, which is a mutation. I don't think regular white people are these albino people. So I said, duh, I think Eve was white. And I thought I was a genius. I said, because Adam was made for dirt. And I said, Eve was, we don't know if it was the rib, but I said Eve was made from like a bone of Adam, or most likely a rib. What color are bones? Y'all, I thought I was spitting. I really did. I thought, I was like, that makes sense. And then I started to really think about it, and I was like, yeah, that still don't make sense. And I think God was like, oh boy, let me help her out. So I prayed to God, and excuse how I look in general, excuses. Anyways, I prayed to God, and I said, God, like, show me Eve, please. I really want to understand where all the races come from. Show me Eve, please, 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 please. And I can't even remember if it happened that night or a couple days later, but I had a dream and I saw Eve. Eve, I'm going to describe her. First of all, I'm going to describe the setting of the dream. So when I was in the dream, I wasn't in necessarily a valley, but I was on the like bottom of like a hill. I was on the bottom of like a hill, and I was like 30, 40, 50, I don't know, just a decent amount away from Eve. Eve was pretty far from me, and she was facing like forward. Like, she wasn't facing me, she was facing forward. And so I was like, Eve was like right here, and I was like right here. Like, I got a back, I was behind her from the side, so I could see her like this much, like, of her face. I never got to see her full face facing forward. I saw a backside angle, and I was just standing on pasture, and in front of Eve was this tall vine with super dark green leaves. And it had like these ombre flowers that were like orange and yellow and red, like a ombre flower. I tried to look up pictures of flowers that were similar to what I had seen in the dream, and I just couldn't find any. But I did insert some pictures of, like, I think what is a lily, and just to kind of describe the color palette of the flower. And I'm going to describe Eve, I'm going to try to describe her from head down. So I want to say Eve looks nothing like the depictions, what people draw, what people say, what people think. She doesn't. Eve has, the only thing that was correct is Eve did have long hair. Eve had long hair, almost down to like mid-back, but between there, not exactly on her butt or covering her butt, but she had long hair. It was curly, a medium to large curl in her head, and she had dark hair. It wasn't jet black, but it was dark, and her hair was slightly, I don't want to say it was puffy, it was slightly out of place. And just that alone made me question, like, made me rethink, like, were Adam and Eve perfect, or were they just sinless? Because Eve's hair wasn't perfectly in place. Like, she had beautiful, long, luscious hair, and it wasn't super shiny either, but it looked healthy. It was long, it was thick. It just wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't like perfectly in place. It didn't look a mess, like super puffy, but it did have some like, pieces that just weren't perfectly in place. And her skin tone was the most shocking thing about Eve. I have never seen anyone with her skin tone to this day. So Eve was close to what we would call caramel, but it just wasn't like, it didn't look like a caramel we see today. Eve had the heaviest red undertone to her skin. It didn't look like a tan. It didn't look like an overtone, a undertone, like a strong red undertone to her skin. She going down to her eyes, she had eyes the color of honey. She had brown eyes, but they were like honey colored. They were light brown eyes. And every time in the dream, this is not something I thought about until later. Remember, I'm far back from Eve, but her scale was large enough. Like, she wasn't tall, like linky, like long or wide. It was just her scale. Like, her scale was like, if you take something and her scale was large enough that even from a distance, I could see her. But there were certain features that I wasn't close enough to see. So every time I would try to like focus on one of her features, God would allow me to like zoom, like the feature to zoom in so I could like see it closer, but I was not physically getting close to Eve, like physically. And I don't know if it's because Eve didn't have any clothes on. I don't know. I was not physically allowed to get close to Eve whatsoever. So her eyes were the color of honey, but something about her eyes was so different. I never knew about, I think it's called iris patterns. I never knew about that. But when I saw Eve, the pattern in her eye was like perfectly, like it was so uniform. Like the pattern was like, she had like humps in her iris pattern, but they were like uninterrupted. Like I don't know, like they didn't have anything in it. And another thing is her eyes were brown, but they were so clear. Like, you know how some people, their eyes are in, like when you see them in sunlight, you can kind of see like the color more, and like, now what I know to be, I think is called the iris pattern more, like when their eyes are in directly sunlight. Eve's eyes were that clear without sunlight directly shining on her face. Like, she was in front of a large, really tall vine. Like, her eyes were just like so clear for some reason. Like, and it's not because I was zoomed in, like they were just like clear, like you could clearly see all the details of her eyes. And it just makes me think, like, what's different about our eyes? Are they foggier? Does it have to do with health that you can't clearly see our eyes? But moving forward, Eve's nose. Eve didn't have a like small nose. She didn't have a large nose. She didn't have a button nose. I don't know if I'll ever be able to find a picture of her nose, but it was like medium, like longish, like it's just so hard to describe, but she had a medium nose. She had medium-sized lips. And let me tell you something, Eve is very pretty. I doubted she was pretty because I feel like when people are pretty in the Bible, they're mentioned. Like, it was mentioned that Esther was very pretty. It was mentioned that Rebecca was very pretty. It was mentioned that Rachel, I think, was pretty. Like, I think it mentions when someone's pretty in the Bible, but there was no mention of Eve being pretty. So I'm like, was Eve even like pretty like that? Eve is pretty. And Eve is simplistically pretty. She doesn't have blue-green eyes. She doesn't have nothing in Eve is over-exaggerated, and nothing in Eve is under-exaggerated, which helped me understand so much about life, which I can't get to in this video. But Eve was medium everything. Medium in curl type, medium in the brown eyes. She didn't have dark brown eyes. She didn't have like blue eyes. Like, she was medium in lip size, medium in nose size. I guess you could consider caramel medium in skin tone, even though I think a darker brown would be more medium in skin tone, but whatever. Everything was medium. Her lips were medium. Eve is very pretty. People make these jokes and they're like, oh, if I saw Eve is so pretty that if you saw her, you wouldn't say nothing. You really wouldn't say anything. You would just stare. You wouldn't say anything. And if you knew that was Eve, you would have a feeling come over you of like, I know this is the mother of all creatures. Like you know. So getting back into the dream, Eve had, I could see one of her breasts. It was like what you would call like a C cup of breast, which also confused me because isn't the most feminine woman going to have really large breasts because she's the first woman? She's the definition of femininity. Aren't breasts feminine? Aren't hips feminine? Aren't butt feminine? Like, isn't she going to have bigger lips? And no, Eve had medium lips, a medium-sized breast, a C cup. Eve's breasts were smaller than mine. I'm just being honest. Then going down her body, she had like medium hips. She didn't have large hips, which once again, I thought she was the pinnacle of femininity. I thought she would have large hips. She didn't. She had like medium-sized hips. The only thing I would say that was on the larger side was actually her butt. It was on the larger side, not compared to these unnatural butts, not the fake butts, not the BBL. Like I'm talking about for the definition of natural butts. It was what? It was just on the larger side of natural butts, which confused me. Everything about the dream confused me. And just that's all I really got to see of Eve, and the dream ended. And when I woke up, I knew it was Eve. I knew I had seen Eve. Guys, God is real. I knew it was Eve. I knew it was her. I've never been more sure about anything in my life. I knew I had seen Eve. I can't explain how much I knew. Like, I just knew, like, and it didn't make sense. If Eve has these curls, where the heck did my hair texture come from? If Eve is caramel, where did the skin tones come from? How does Eve have brown eyes? Where did colored eyes come from? That don't even make sense. Like, and I sat there and I really was like, well, did I really see her with brown eyes? And I'm like, and I tried and I was like, well, maybe it had more colors in it and I just couldn't see it. And then I had to recheck myself. I said, no, I clearly saw her eyes were brown. I didn't see any other colors. Like, and I'm like, and if Eve's the pinnacle of femininity, why aren't her breasts super big? Why aren't her hips super big? And another thing, I was like, weren't Adam and Eve vegans? Like, weren't they vegans? That's how God originally created people, to be in vegans. Like, we carry signs of that still in our teeth. Humans were originally created to be vegans. I don't think, controversy, I don't think we still should be. But that's how we were originally created. So wouldn't Eve be a stick? Eve was not a stick. Now, she's not what we consider today as thick in American standards. I guess by American standards, she would, oh, somebody's up. 1 second. My son woke up, so I just put him to lay down behind me. Hopefully he's not like screaming in this video. Lord help me. But anyways, I don't remember where I left off, but I think I left off around like nothing about Eve made sense to me. And oh yeah, Eve's weight. Eve was like what in America we would consider, some stores play with the size, so maybe I should like insert a picture that's like more similar to her size, or maybe I'll do that on the full-length video. But she was what in America that we used to consider like to be a size 5 to 7, so she wasn't stick skinny, and that made me question things too. But she wasn't like what we consider slim thick. She was just bigger than I thought a raw vegan would be. When I woke up, though, all I can say is I knew that was Eve. From that dream, I figured out where all the races come from, how all the races came from her, how all the races developed. I started to understand everything about hair, where all the hair types came from, how we all look different. Like I said, I understand how animals, why they look the way they look, why they're the way they are. I started to understand things about fruits and vegetables and gardening and how the earth works. And it just, everything testified that my dream was true. Nature testified that that dream was true. Nothing has come up that has testified against this dream. Nature testified the dream was true. Animals testified that the dream was true. The animals that I see, interactions that I've had testified the dream was true. How children look with two different parents testified the dream I had was true. The Bible, things that would happen in the Bible relating to race and stuff testified that the dream was true. Just everything. I learned things about health and disease, and all I did was see Eve. Eve didn't look at me face forward. She didn't talk. I didn't hear anything from Eve. Just from seeing Eve, God blessing me to see Eve, I have figured out so much about life. I am so happy to get this dream off my spirit. It has been weighing me down keeping this dream in. I'm going to make a second video where I'm going to go into detail explaining how I figured out how the races came about, the hair types came about, our different facial features came about. I'm going to explain what I learned about animals. I'm going to explain everything. I'm going to do a summary video where I'm going to go into detail, short detail about each subject. And then hopefully I can make like videos going into great detail about each subject, like videos just about that subject. Please, thank you for watching. This is more of a gift to me than it is to you. I'm so happy this is off of my spirit. I'm so happy this is not going to be on my mind every day and I didn't get anything out. I'm so happy that I'm not going to get like hopefully weird things stop happening to me, because I did it. I got the video out, and I did not want to put this video out. When I was called to put this video out, I was like, I just wanted the dream for me. I didn't like people like that. You know, this is before I got close to God. I was like, I don't like people like that. I want people bothering me, asking me questions. I don't want that. Now, I don't think I would mind as much, but I just didn't want to put the video out. I didn't want to put it out. And I was like, okay, like I kind of wanted to put it out, but I didn't want to deal with the backlash, and I wanted to put it out in perfect circumstances. And you can see, like, with my son sleeping behind me and me in a robe and pajamas and with no eyelashes on and looking a mess, that perfect circumstances didn't end up happening. But yeah, I'm so glad I got out. It's a gift to me. It is. And hopefully strange things stop happening to me because I've done what I was supposed to do. Thank you for watching, guys. I am going to make another video explaining everything. I just wanted to get the dream out there. I love you. Bye.